What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Here we are for another week and another underground story. Right? Here we are. Have my people come on in. Let the people join us. What's going on? How y'all doing? What is going on? Let me grab my book. What's going on, everybody? I want to welcome you all to another underground story. Today is the 10-year anniversary for season 1 of Fahrenheit Models. They auditioned today. And we were able to get the homecoming fashion show started based off of this audition. And if you remember the first story, if you remember part 1, when we talk about our origin and where everything started for Fahrenheit, there were some months in between the actual getting started. So here we are in the top of February. At that time, in school, that season was headed towards our homecoming. And we went to a private university, so our homecoming was different from where your normal one was, probably like in October, right? Or like November-ish time. So ours was in like March, I believe. So we had our work cut out. We had some stuff to get done. And what we set our sights out to do was to really train and develop our models. We wanted, of course, to get everybody ready for the homecoming fashion show. That was the goal. That was going to be the first show that we were going to put on. But the main priority was the model development. So what I'm going to do today on this underground story is basically utilize this 10-year anniversary to break down what model development looks like. So get your people in here, let them know that we're going to be talking about bringing that model to life. What's going on? So in order to do so, let me break down what model development actually looks like. So model development is simply training for a model. Just like anybody that wants to go into some type of profession, you have to have some type of research, of skill, of background experience, something that's going to get you to the next level, okay? So coming from Washington, D.C., coming from a place where they always have, in-depth model development coming from the homebred, model development company, Righteous Ones. So with that in mind, I took the concept of having a collection of models happen during different seasons, right? So it ended up being, we wanted to call them seasons of models, like America's Next Top Model, very much so giving that. And Righteous Ones, they will be called lines. And for me, I felt like that was very integral to the camaraderie, the foundation, building up the history, building on the respect of those that come before you, they come around you, they come with you. So I felt like it was very important to carry that information on. So we did that. We have our season, so we're going to do that. While we're developing the season, you want to be hitting these type of notes. You want to be hitting the runway note. You want to be hitting the portfolio note. So that's taking photos, okay? You want to be building the resume. Okay, going out and not only just doing your shows, but doing outside shows with other brands and other show producers and things and such like that. Okay, and then of course being able to have public speaking ability. Okay, you have to have that personability. Like, you have to have that personality, when you're going into these castings. There's a lot that goes on with being a professional model that you have to fit into. Okay, so when it comes down to model development, that was the goal. Okay, so Fahrenheit definitely took that, and we spearheaded it with season 1. Okay, so in season 1, you come into your rehearsal. Okay, you come into your rehearsal, have them come on in. Today we're drinking our own drink. Sometimes I treat myself to a beverage outside of the water. But we spearheaded it with season 1. And when you come into the rehearsal, you start now with your runway. Of course, everybody goes right into the runway because people feel like that is, the top tier 100%. That's the thing that states that you're a model, that you're able to walk runway, right? So everybody goes in and starts the runway practice. So the way that we broke down, and I'm giving you guys free game. This is one of the episodes that is going to be all about free game, okay? So we'll go into the episode, and the way I would, the rehearsal, and I would break down the runway into different patterns, okay? So if you had, let's say, for example, pattern A. Okay, let's say pattern A. In this pattern, we're going to teach you how to come on the runway, right? Okay, coming on, looking at the audience, correct? Having a point in the back, going all the way up to the top of the runway, learning the timing, okay? The 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. You getting your photos, right? That's probably going to be the first model stance. Okay, well, you'll teach that first model stance. That's pattern A or technique A, however you want to say it, right? They'll start memorizing that. So then you institute technique B. So now you turn it up a little bit. Same thing as A. You come on in, you got your point. Okay, now you go into going up to the top of the runway. Now you're doing a half turn. 1, 2, 3, get out of there, right? That's technique B. They start to memorize that. Okay, cool. You go into technique C. Now you're starting to do something a little bit different, right? You start to have them maybe walk right onto the runway, right? So now this is something that gets them set up for momentum. This is leading them to what the flood is going to feel like. You see what I'm saying? You got to lead up to where you're going, okay? So now walk right on in, you go to the top. Maybe on C, you repeat one of A or B. So now you just say, okay, you do your B again, but again, remember, you're not doing that back point, okay? So now you've taught the group 3 different runway patterns. That's technically 3 scenes for a fashion show, okay? Now, after you've done those 3 basics, right? You've done 3 basics. Then you teach them a flood. Now, this is where it always goes to hell. What's up, Harley? What's going on, man? Thank you for coming. What's going on? What's up, Ant? The legendary. Oh, man. So, we're in here chatting today about model development. So, in honor of Fahrenheit Model's 10-year anniversary of season 1. So, after you taught them these 3 runway patterns, right? Okay. You got to teach them the floods. And the flood, like I said, that's normally where it's a shit show. Because honestly, when people want to be a model and they feeling it, they feeling fierce, you know what I'm saying? It takes them a second to get into uniformity, to feeling the energy of the group, of the collective, okay? So you got to kind of work that into the group, right? So that takes a little bit of time, but you have to institute the flood because the flood is important for the fashion show, right? So what's going on, y'all? Thank y'all for joining me. So as you teach the flood, you do your 1, 2, your 1, 2, your 1, 2, right? You eventually find the pace that works for you all. When you're instituting your floods, you give them 3, right? Because it's all about development. It's all about going on steps, levels. Keep growing, right? Keep growing. So if you learn the initial flood, which will be coming right on and right off, right? Then what you could do next would be coming on straight down the middle, and then there's a split. One goes left, one goes right, right? Okay. Now they're exiting on opposite sides. Okay. So now you have taught them 2 floods, right? Now, while they're on opposite sides, you're still in rehearsal. While they're on opposite sides, teach them the 3rd flood, coming in from left and right, joining each other into one final flood, and then flooding off. Okay? So now you taught them 3 runway patterns, 3 runway floods. Okay? So now you have to drill these things in. Okay? And make them make sense. So every single time that you do a different runway pattern, you have to attach it mentally to what a scene would look like. Okay? So let's say, for example, out of the first 3 runway patterns, okay, A, B, and C, A being your standard, B being your half turn, okay, C also being a half turn, but it's more of a flooded runway. Okay, so now you're looking at swimsuits. Let's say swimsuits. Swimsuits, you want to see body, right? So you're going to say, all right, let's put swimsuits with pattern A. Okay, so now your models are accustomed to doing the standard model stance on the runway when they're doing swimsuits, which would be clean and classic for every one of your fashion shows. You see what I'm saying? Uniformity. You attaching the program to the actual product that you're working towards. Okay? So think about gowns. This is when you institute another runway pattern. Okay, gowns. You need to be in a Chanel for women. You need to do a Chanel. You need to do a walk around. Okay? If you know model development, you know what I'm talking about. It's a Chanel and it's a walk around. Okay? Because you're walking around the tail, okay, of the gown. So you go in, you teach now the 4th runway pattern. Okay? If you're adding, now you got to add to the flood. We do have a 4th flood. The 4th flood is the classic everybody knows that you need to have your group be able to do a clapping flood, a finale flood, right? Everybody knows that. So when you do D, which would be for specifically for the ladies, okay, you would do the Chanel and the walk around. That will be the new pattern. Then you would go in and institute the finale clap flood. Okay, so now you're at 4 runway patterns, 4 floods. So this is what I was doing. I continue to just build on the program one by one. And as it was happening, you have to do some things that I like to call conformity. Okay, now, Conformity is all about everybody looking as one, conforming to the look, the aesthetic. Okay, there is a beautiful array of walks and looks and things like that, but when you're walking for a brand, okay, for a company, you have an aesthetic, and it's important that you, as a CEO or a leader, that you institute this look, okay? And that you're making sure that you put everybody through this conformity process that makes sure that everybody is going and is uniform the exact way that it's supposed to be, okay? So it looks clean. Every fashion show, every photo shoot, there's an aesthetic, okay? There's a branding. So after you've gotten those 4 patterns down on both ends of runway and the floods, you get into the conformity, and this is when you do more workshops of window walking. So this is when they're in groups and they're broken down in windows, okay, off the shoulder, walking in groups together. This is building that community, right, build up that energy that they gotta have, that synchronicity like they have to have as a group, okay? And you shift that up a couple of times, okay? You start speaking on who's really pushing it forward. Let's get you in the front. Let's see you go. Boom. You see that line. Boom. You see the next line walk. Boom. See the next line walk. Boom. Let's talk about things on the spot. Development. Develop them. Actually develop them. Okay. What's going on, y'all? Thank y'all for joining me. You have the opportunity right then and there, hands-on development. You're breaking them down. You're seeing them individually, right? Reinstitute your runways. Reinstitute your floods, right? Keep going. It's a repetitive system because that's the only way that you create uniformity, okay? When it comes down to true model development, okay? So now when you got all of the runway down, now that's just the basics. Now that's free game. I'm trying to tell y'all that was 100% free game of how to do the model basics for model development. And honestly, I could go into a little bit more details with Chanel's and boys' model stance being shoulder width apart, and girls walking on the tightrope. All of those things, those are very important. Okay, if you want me to come and speak about this with the group, let me know. But this is where you get the story right here. So you have next print work. You have to be a full round model. So Fahrenheit, we used to do a couple of different photo shoots with a guy named Tariq, and he was great. Like, honestly, I felt like he was always very clear on our vision when we wanted to do something, very productive, very collaborative, and we always got our shit back. That's always important, okay? Whatever we did collaborate, we did always get our shit back. So he grew with the group. You know that during the origin story, we were telling, I was telling you guys how Fahrenheit had ended up breaking into different departments and things like that. So he definitely spearheaded a lot of those photography projects and building the portfolios of the models. So I thought that was important to have it set up that way, because if you think about it, photographers are who make models' careers. You know, photographers make models' careers. If you're muse to a photographer and they put you on a major magazine, they want to shoot you, that's big shit. That's big shit. Okay? And I'm sure people can attest to that. In the model world, having photographers, that's your key. That's your key. Having photographers, but you got to know everybody. Okay? Don't get me wrong. You got to know everybody. Your job is to know everybody in the industry, truly, as a model, because it all of that matters. Okay, but your photographer, you gotta have it. Thank you. So, headshots, gotta have the headshot. Okay, you gotta have a full-on comp card. Now that can include, depending on your age, it could include having a high fashion look, something in lingerie, or more body appealing, more athletic, like that. You definitely need to have something commercial. All right, and I would say nowadays I would probably do something more streetwear, urban, appealing as well, as a flip side to the high fashion. And then your headshot. Okay, with those shots, you're able to provide any brand a clear view of where they could place you. Okay, because that's what you're looking to do. Your portfolio is meant to sell you. It is once they open up the book, okay, I see exactly where this person can go. It should not be no confusion. It should be no confusion. I know that when we do photo shoots, we see all these great shots, but you gotta find that shot. Like Tiger said, you gotta find that shot, because that shot is the one that needs to be in the portfolio. It might not always be the one that you like the most, and I've been there. I can tell you that. I have a photo in my portfolio that I'm not particularly super fond of. I like the photo, but it works, and it works. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta know what to put in there. So if you're a model and you're starting out with that, if you're working with your photographer, you could ask your photographer. But then also, if you're inside of a group, you should be asking your leaders, because they should know what type of photos are going into your portfolio, what type of photos should go into your portfolio, depending on what type of model you're trying to be. Okay, so then again, you also have to narrow that down. All right, you have to spearhead in a direction. Okay, so that conversation is going to have to be had. So moving forward, so after print work, okay, so you get your print work. Now you're out and you're getting booked. What's up, y'all? Thank y'all for coming in. So now you've done your print work. Now you're getting booked, right? You need to go to do other people's fashion shows. Okay? If you're in a group right now, you're not auditioning for other people's fashion shows, I think you should. My advice would be audition for other fashion shows. There's fashion weeks and things like that you should be a part of, because it's about networking as a model. It's not about closing yourself into the group that you're learning with. That's okay. Learn with your group, but grow, because the world is out there. Okay, and the industry is out there, and it's waiting for fresh new faces, and and they're not going to find them if you're staying at home, okay, and not auditioning for these gigs. So there's fashion weeks and things like that would be a great idea for people to audition for, even from local fashion weeks to major fashion weeks. I think that you guys should be focusing on, if a designer is putting on their own trunk shows or personal shows, audition for it. You should be sending in videos of you walking. You send your comp card, or you send your portfolio. You should have those things geared up and ready for that type of move whenever it's calling for it. Okay, so if somebody, hey, boo, I saw something, I need you to send. You should be able to go ahead and just send that stuff over, being a serious model. Okay, so that was a very integral part for us, because early on, Fahrenheit was getting booked for stuff, and I had to make it happen. So we needed to hurry up and get the girls' headshots. We had to hurry up and get the girls' a portfolio. We had to hurry up and get the girls' clips on runway. Or we had to make sure the girls really were clean on runway, because honestly, it was Miami. A lot of people would come and see us, or we would just be making appearances and stuff like that. So a lot of the time, our name kind of spoke for itself, but we had to audition for shit. You know, people still had to audition for shit. So to go be a part of Miami Fashion Week, or like Rita coming back up to being a part of New York Fashion Week and stuff like that, that is audition. You know, you do have to audition. So you had to be ready for that. You had to be prepared for that. So now you got all your runway training, right? All that good stuff, your print work, you're comfortable now behind the lens, you know, on the floor, wearing clothes, what to do when you're in specific clothes. That stuff is important. That stuff is important. You learn that in model development. Okay. So then you go to these castings, right? Don't be dry. Always have a smile on your face and be enjoying yourself, okay? I used to go to castings and have chronic bitch face. Until one time, I forget what his name is, but if y'all remember the guy from Sheree, Sheree's the butch queen that was with Sheree. No disrespect, but yeah, the guy that was with Sheree, the designer. I was in New York, and I think this was what show was this? Was it in? I think it might have been internet. I think it might have been International Fashion Week or something like that. It was something in correlation to New York Fashion Week, something like that, right? And I was in the back, and you know, I got my normal chronic bitch face on. You know, I'm just thinking I'm the shit. You know, I'm this male model. Or yeah, I'm hot. You know, I can walk, whatever. And the guy, you know, he walks around the room. He looks around. You know, looks around. And then he starts picking people to wear his stuff. And I didn't get picked. And I was wondering, like, okay, let me wait a minute. So let me see his stuff. Because sometimes, you know, when I'm in New York, I'm too thin. I'm too thin for New York sometimes. I don't know why, but I'm too thin for New York. They always said I need to be a 32 in New York. I'm a 30. But actually back then I was a 28. So I was really thin. They always said I needed to go to Europe. But I'm thinking it was that. But then, you know, he's trying the stuff on. You know, everybody's trying the stuff on. And I'm like, and this is only one of the days, because it was like a 3-day like audition thing, and then it was the show, another, you know, coming, because we auditioned in like 2 different places or something. It was a lot of shit. And at this one, he put the people on, he put the people in the clothes, and I was like, I should be able to feel some of that shit, you know. Like me, he's about thin as me. I should be able to fit that. So I paid it, you know. I'm like, okay, you know. Then I'm still young at this, so I'm like, you know, okay, let me just, you know, check that up, you know. And then we went on to the next audition location, and he was there again. And I think he said he was coming to put a couple of more pieces on people, right? And here I am still in the same chronic bitch face, right? And I think this time he was ready to teach me the lesson. Like, I think this time he was ready to be like, okay, I came back thinking that, you know, the people are going to shake the shit, you know, going to look different or so have you, but it's not giving that. So he says, why ain't nobody in here smiling? He literally looked around and was like, why ain't nobody in here smiling? It's just like, you at an audition, you're in New York, you're in fashion, it should be exciting. And at that moment, he just looked right at me. It's just like, how does somebody pick anyone and they don't even look like they're excited to be here? And that was that was a lesson for me. Like, immediately, I was like, oh, Shit. You're not supposed to go into these castings feeling like diva. You're supposed to go in these castings excited and enjoying people's fashion and looking forward to the show. You know, being an energy and a light to their fashion. You're supposed to be bringing life to their fashion. You come in there being dull and nasty and chronic bitch face. You're not going to exude what the designer put all this work in for. You know, it's just not gonna do it. So for me, I had to learn that. So going forward, I was like, oh, so now every time I went to a casting, I did right. You speak to the designers when they come in. Hey, how's it going? Oh, I love this stuff. Great. You know? And then when they're starting to line people up, they're like, or when you walk, they're like, I like his personality too. He's nice. He's smiling and stuff. Yeah. Like, that stuff matters. And I started to book gigs after that. Like, it was, you know, I felt like I needed that. I needed that. So after you get through your castings, right? You get through your castings. And now it's time to really put it all together. Okay? It's time to put it all together. And that model development should have, throughout all of that, the confidence should have been boosted, you know. Some things that, like opportunities that you needed to learn on within runway and within print work, angles, lighting, body, how to use your body and things like that. Okay. What to do with different clothing, you know. You want to be able to get all of those teachings out during the model development. And I felt like Fahrenheit really had the upper hand on it because I had experience from Righteous Ones and Models Envied. So I put a lot of both of their energy into what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, you know. And the model development program that I came up with created monsters. They created monsters. Girls that could walk, could do print work, could travel in the name, okay? Could go and represent the brand. You know, guys that could represent the brand, guys that could go out and speak to different designers and things like that. I mean, if you really do it right, you will absolutely develop top tier models. Not just people that can pump or battle, but models. Truly. And I feel like I am grateful for, I know I'm super grateful for my experience with Righteous Ones and with Models Envy, because I was able to see on two different levels what it looked like to develop a model and how and what it looked like to boost someone's confidence and to change morale and to encourage people. And I'm grateful for that, because I can tell you, when I was with Models Envy, Antoine was on it. Okay? I remember at one practice, he had the people come to practice, but we had the shopping bags. The girls had to rock the shopping bags. You know, you couldn't walk down Antoine's runway without any energy. And it was the same. I mean, from back then when I was a part of Models Envy to when I had rejoined Models Envy when I had first returned back to DC, he was practicing the exact same way. Shout out to Antoine. Like, that diligence when it comes to, you got to be energetic every time you come out on the runway. I learned, I could break this down. Like, I learned walking with a purpose from Righteous Wands, but I learned that energy and honing that energy and doing that energy from envy. Like, every time you could, like, Antoine was not playing. You couldn't just walk. You couldn't. We wasn't just getting through practice. Not saying that Harley would do that either. Harley, you had to fucking walk for Harley. But it's the way that Antoine, like, and then the things that he would bring into it to, again, what I feel like I utilized, tapping into what you're going to do for your fashion show inside of your practice, right? So if he knew he was going to do this shopping bag scene and with the girls, with the energy, he wanted to feel that then, you know, you show up and you perform the way you practice, okay? And so the way that he did it and Danny came out, the legendary Danny, she came out and did the fucking bag and like, and she fucked them bags up. Like, I ain't never seen nobody walk with shopping bags like that. Like, and it was inspiring. Like, that was dope. Like, it told me every time I come out and I hit that floor, it better be hot. It better be hot. It gotta be. You know, I got the skill, but that energy burning, you gotta have that, right? So that's definitely the cherry on top. That's the extra free game that you're gonna make sure that you need to have. That fire, that's the difference. That's the difference. Okay, you got to be able to move people with your spirit, your aura, as a model. Okay. Well, listen, I had a great time talking to you guys. I think that it's very important that people understand what model development is. So I hope that you guys share this video. Make sure that you inform your people. And listen, if you want any additional information, let me know. I got your back. Fahrenheit Models has 10 years of experience. We've done it. We're going to continue to do it in the future. Wink, wink. I have a couple of things in store for that. But I feel like there's so much to learn from this culture. From this culture. And that's what Underground Stories is about. Okay? There's so much to learn from this culture. So, like, look at how educational model development is. Simply. Just a little bit of model training, right? More than you thought. So, join me next week for another Underground Stories. We have another icon joining us. Ooh. Can't wait for that. Another icon on Underground Stories next week, guys. See you Tuesday at 8.